All right, so what happened? Originally, I got, along with most of the IUCRR divers that did side mount, a call. We get a call out, so it'll go out on email that there's a problem, where it is, and it goes out to the ones that do the smaller type of recoveries. And it said it was 2 guys were missing in the Dominican Republic, and we didn't know if we were going to be needed yet, but would you be willing to go? And of course, like always, I always say, of course. And I got a call that night, I think from Brett Hemphill. He also said, are you going to go? And I said, yes, I offered up. And he said, have you talked to anybody? I said, no. There's a lot of big name divers over there. There's a lot of really fantastic divers over there. And I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I just sent them an email that said that I'm willing and available. All you got to do is reach out and I'm there. And he said, well, I'd like to go, but I don't have the money for a ticket. And we, as the IUCRR, are not allowed to ask for money from the families. And so, anyway, never heard anything back. They never called, never reached out. They found the first victim, I think the first day. And they had a lot of people working on it. And they never did find the second victim. They found the first victim. He was in a very small, tight place. It was kind of a windy uphill jump. It was an unmarked jump, and apparently they didn't mark it for a reason, that it was, really dusty, nasty, tight, small. So they found him in there, but they couldn't get him out. He was stuck. And I think Philip Weeman even sent me a video. He's the head of the DRSS over there. And you couldn't see much. It was near zero visibility. You could see the victim kind of. Anyway, they just kept calling in expert after expert. They couldn't get him out. Philip Weeman and Patrick Woodman are best friends. So Philip called Patrick. Patrick flew over. He couldn't get him out. From what I was told, he would call back to the States and ask for advice. I think he was talking to Lamar first. And Lamar said, I don't know. We usually just see what we see and we make decisions based on that. You could try this or you could try that. And so he called him again the next night. That didn't work. What else you got? I don't know who else he was calling. This came secondhand to me. Anyway, after the 4th day of attempts, he was told, when it's impossible, we call Ed. So Patrick and I are good friends now, but at that time we really didn't know each other. I don't think we'd even met. And Patrick called me and told me the scenario that, what he had tried, that this guy was really stuck, it's really bad. Would I come? And I said, absolutely. I said I would. I said, Stacy's booking the flights right now. So before we got off the phone, he said, with the IUCRR, when they do training, there's only been, up until recently, there's only been 2 instructor trainers since Henry Nicholson that started it passed away. And that's John Jones and Lamar Hires. And I'm pretty sure Lamar did Patrick's IUCRR training. But anyway, I think they teach 2- and 3-man teams. But when I got trained as one of the original IUCRR divers when it was founded, our training was just really paperwork. They talked in a classroom and how to fill out incident reports and that kind of stuff. So we really didn't have any hands-on. I learned it from, I think, the first year, 99. I just happened to be vacationing and did a body recovery. And I had to figure it all out on my own. And since then, numerous, countless body I just figure it out. I just sort it out, and my brain just works that way. When I feel things, it just says, oh, this isn't going to work. What is going to work? So anyway, I told him I'd come, and Patrick says, I know you have a reputation for doing this by yourself. For 30 years, I've always done all these body recoveries by myself. I don't go on a body recovery or a rescue with someone else. I only want to worry about me. And he said, I know you have a reputation for doing this shit by yourself. He said, but you've got to take it. It's too dangerous. It's too tight. It's too nasty. It's twisty, windy. You're going to have to come out backwards, which I do a lot anyway. And I said, okay. So I got off the phone. Well, I don't ever take anybody. The only time I ever did take 2 guys that volunteered was to that one in the Wassissa River. And when the body, when I had them in the cavern pulling the body through the restriction, and I'm in there pushing and tucking, as soon as they saw the body, they both panicked, bolted, and got out, left me in there with a body in the way of me going home. And then they both quit diving. It really screwed with their heads. So I'm thinking, who am I going to take? Who do I trust my life to? And so I called Mike Young. And we're pretty good friends, so I just said, hey, I know you're busy, but... And he said, yeah, I'll absolutely go with you. So...
For the people who don't know who Mike is.
Mike Young owns Kiss Rebreathers that I happen to dive. They're rebreathers, and that's what I was going to be doing the body recovery on. So, obviously, I work alone. So, on the flight over, I was telling Mike how I do things. And I said, in this pocket, I will have a harness that I custom made. Sometimes when the victims, they're dead. So, and sometimes they're most of the time they're rigor mortis up. This guy had been in there for 18, 19 days. He was pretty much a bag of jello. But getting them out of restrictions and stuff is very difficult because they're not aiming themselves. It's bad. So I have this harness that I made from another recovery where it goes around their armpit, and then it goes from a loop around the armpit, back through the loop, around this armpit, back through the loop, and comes out. And that keeps their head down, and it pulls from their torso. Sometimes when they've been immersed in water for a really long time, they soften up and they can come apart. You don't want to pull body parts off. And so this way it's pulling from multiple points and keeping their head down, and it kind of aids in the recovery process. So I'm telling him about this harness, and he's like, where did you find that? I didn't find it, I built it, I made it. And he said, but sometimes we have to bring them out backwards. And I said, so I have another harness, and it starts with a loop, goes around their waist, and then it goes down to another loop by their knees, and it goes around this knee and around that one in a figure 8, so it pulls their knees together, and it keeps things from flailing apart, and then it comes down, and that way it keeps them together so they'll come out that way. Where did you get that harness? I made it. How do you think of things like this? Necessity. And I said, and then that'll be in this pocket along with the bag. What's the bag? I said, it's a mesh bag that'll go over their head with a drawstring that ties up. It's what some Pinnacle wetsuit boots came in. What's that for? Well, if their head comes off, I said, one, I like to bring them out in as good a tact as I found them. So this protects their head when it's scraping along rocks and stuff, and also if their head was to come off, you can pick up a bag instead of a slimy head. And he's like, how do you even think of things like this? So anyway, so we've got that situated. When we get into, well, first of all, when we're booking the flights, Stacy's asking me, how many days are you going to be there? I don't know. They haven't even found the second victim yet. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Give me a one-way ticket. We'll get another one-way back. So that's what she did. And it allowed her to do that online, but then it wouldn't allow us to check in. And come to find out, since 9/11, they won't let you get one-way international flights. You have to have a round trip. And so she's like, well, you got to come up with something. I got to do a round trip. And in the meantime, Philip Lehman calls me back, the head of the DRSS over there, and says they're not going to let you come. the government. And I said, what did I do? Well, what do they know I did? And he said, they've already had the best divers in the world, and it's too dangerous. They don't want to risk anybody else's life. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll pretend I'm not offended, but sure. I said, just have them Google my name. They'll see that I'm actually pretty good at, sorry, we'll edit that part out. I'm actually pretty darn good at what I do. So I said, these families need closure. And I said, you know, they were talking about just closing the cave and leaving the bodies in there. And I said, you really don't want to do that. So anyway, she's still booking the tickets. And about an hour later, I said, just give me 8 days. Or no, I was saying, 2 weeks, because I figured, heck, we might as well make it into a vacation at the same time, go do some cave diving. I heard there's great caves over there. So then Philip calls back and says, they're not going to let you come. I said, what's the problem? I tell them this. And then they call back an hour later and say, okay, the mayor says you can come. You have 8 days. Because they had been working on it for 18 or 19 days at this point. And he said, if you can't do it in 8 days, you have to leave. And they're going to close the cave and leave the bodies in there. I said, okay. So on the flight over, I'm telling Mike about the stuff. And when we get to our room, they had the police there waiting for us. And as soon as we came off the plane, and that way we got to skip all the customs nonsense. And that was really nice. And we walked right through the airport. They got our luggage. And off to the hotel we went. So once we got to the hotel, I proceeded to get these harnesses out, and I put one on me, and I laid on the floor, and Mike drugged me around the room so he could see how they worked in case we needed them. And I said, but really, your only job, I said, a lot of times I've had to come out backwards, like one of the guys I had to pull out that was searching for the Ben McDaniels guy. It was so restricted, and it was so small, I had to come out backwards. So I'm pulling him 6 inches to a foot at a time, and I have to find the line. This is zero viz, and I need both hands. So I have to find the line and figure out which direction it's going. And then I let go of the line, grab him, drag, scooch back, and then I have to reacquire the line. And that takes time, and several times I was like, oh shit. I don't have a line. And we all know, those of us that are cave divers and those of you who are not cave divers, without that little 1/8 line, you're not going home. So when you are in the zero viz situation with a dead body in your arms and you're trying to reacquire the line that used to be right there and it's not there anymore, it's a little bit of a pucker moment. So I said, your only job is to have one hand on the line and one hand on my leg. And I'll just keep wiggling back and we'll work together backwards. And if the cave changes direction, because he told me that it winded around, I said, if it changes directions, you squeeze twice on my leg, which means stop, and then you situate my legs. So if we have to go to the left, you'll move my legs over to the left and pull twice, and I'm ready to go. And that worked really well. So we got to the first victim. We got to on site that morning, got geared up. There was military personnel everywhere. It was pretty much being run by the Dominican military. And they had, I think, 3 or 4 of their Navy divers in the water. And Philip was there. He wanted to help. And I said, we need weight. I knew they were going to get floaty, being in the water that long, deteriorating. So he had a little milk crate, and he said, what do you want? I said, make up 12-pound weight belts. How many? As many as you can get. Why 12? I said, because that's all I can carry and still have some buoyancy. So he made up a basket of 12-pound weight belts, and they worked on getting this, I think it was 700 or 800 feet back in the cave. So they were going to do this while Mike and I were doing the body recovery. So Denny, the guy from the shop that was helping us out, he said, I'm going to go in there and I'll wait at the line, because he's in a back mount Optima, I think, rebreather. And he said, I'll wait there for you. How long are you going to be? I'm like, heck, I don't know. I said, I don't generally quit till I'm done. So, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, could be 5 hours. I don't know. So he takes us to the jump. They had a jump reel already run. There wasn't one there previously. And apparently there was another jump over here that came this way. You're in this tall oval shaped passage. And you have to go down and then under this lip, way down there. And you can't really even see that there's a tunnel there. And that's kind of what they wanted. Well, these guys apparently had gone in over here and they went up this way, and it was a real low, muddy tunnel, and they had zeroed it out. And when that one hits this one, there's a T. Now, they were open water divers and did not know cave etiquette and protocol, apparently. And when they got to the T, it went like that, and they knew out was up, was what these people surmised, and they went the wrong way. And they got caught in the line, apparently, and in a panic tore out all the line. So when the rescue or the recovery divers went in looking for them, they got to this T, and just past the T, the line was broken. So they tied in a reel and had to run a line in this limited to almost zero visibility situation looking for bodies. When they found the first victim, they tied off the reel and left it there and proceeded to work. The first team couldn't get them out, second team, third team, so on. So Denny takes us to there, we go in, get back to the first victim. And it's zero viz. And I run a mask light on this side and a camera, little parallels camera on this side. And the mayor, or the general, or whatever he was, head of the thing on land, the military guys, asked me to videotape it. And I said, well, I don't know what's going to show up because I heard it's zero visibility, but I said, I'll have a camera on and you're welcome to the footage when I'm done. So I had a mask light on this side, wide angle mask light to illuminate, camera on this side. And all I can see is just a white haze, a brown haze, and then I got to a red haze. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm at a blood layer here, so we got to be getting close. And then I ran right into him. And so I proceeded to work on getting him out. And what we had to do was go flat for a little bit, and then it had this drop off. And he was, just like reported, he was very stuck. And it was, I would have to, it was really low. So I would have to anchor I would have my head on the ceiling, my chest on the floor, my butt on the ceiling, my knees on the floor, and my ankles on the ceiling. So I looked like a big W. And that was my anchor. And then I would pull him down and pull towards me. And I did this. And by the way, if you want to lose some weight, this is a really good ab exercise. Just don't do 80,000 reps like I did. My abs were cramping up the next morning. But I got him to where it started to do this drop off, but there was some kind of a lip up there that I couldn't see. It was all zero visibility. And he kept getting hung up on that lip. So I told Mike, and you can talk fairly well through the rebreather, I told him we need weight. So we turned around and got back to the main tunnel, and Philip had gotten that bucket of weight there. So I gave him a 12-pound weight belt, and I took a 12-pound weight belt. And apparently they had already gotten his gear off of him, so he was just in a wetsuit. And no mask, no fins, no gear, just a wetsuit. And so we get back to the victim, and I'm trying to put these weight belts on him. But he's stuck to the ceiling, and I got to get, and I ended up tearing one of my wrist seals, and so now I'm leaking. And I finally get one on, and then I got to get back to Mike. And in zero visibility, all this stuff seems really easy. He's right behind me, but it's really not because you can't see anything. So then I got to get the weight belt from Mike, and communication is very difficult as well. So I got to get the weight belt from Mike, and now I got to get this second weight belt on him. I get that done, and now a normal sized person in a 3 mil wetsuit should take about 5 to 8 pounds of weight to make him neutrally buoyant or negatively buoyant. They already had 8 pounds stuffed in the guy's wetsuit. So he should have been neutral already. Now I just put 24 pounds on him. So now he has 32 pounds of weight on him. He should have been an anchor, and he was still stuck to the ceiling. So I start going and going, and I'm making some progress now because he's less positively buoyant than he was, but it's still very, very difficult. And I got him, I think we got him all the way out to the main tunnel, and it took a while. I think the total dive time was almost 5 hours. So when I got him to that last shelf, I'm thinking, it's been almost 5 hours. That guy that said he was going to wait for me, he ain't going to be there. And there he was, sitting there. Hey, you guys good? And of course, we had crystal clear visibility once we got to there. So I asked him, I wrote him a note on my wristlet, where's the body bag? So now I got to tuck him in the shelf and go get the body bag. I'm getting the body bag, and as I'm coming back, he breaks free, and now he's soaring towards the ceiling. Now I know he's picking up speed. When he hits, he's gonna explode. And I zoom up ahead of him, and I grab his head and shoulders right as we hit, and he pinned me to the ceiling, but it kept him intact. So then I had to slide out from underneath him. I got him up there, and I get the body bag. Mike's down here messing with weights, and Denny's over here shining a light, and nobody's helping me put him in a bag. So I ended up doing that all by myself, which is way more difficult than it sounds. And I get him bagged up, and then we can't get him out. He's stuck to the ceiling. So Mike finally comes up to help me, and we pull and yank. And we go a couple inches, and a couple inches, and a couple inches. And we got a long ways to go. I'm like, oh, we're not going to get this done. So we go back to the bucket, and we grab weight belts. Now, these body bags have 6 handles on them. 3 on this side, 3 on that side. We put a 12-pound weight belt on all 6 handles. And he's still stuck to the ceiling. I'm like, there's no possible way we could have 150 pounds of weight on this guy, and he's still stuck to the ceiling. But he was. And it was pull and yank. But we were getting more progress this way. And we finally have to go down to the restriction. That was challenging. And then we get him up into the cavern, and we still got a 200-foot long cavern to go to get out. And so we're struggling now because the cavern has little like speleothems in it. Most of them are broken off, but they're nubs, and there's enough of them that it's making progress almost impossible. And just so happened that the Navy divers were right out there in open water, and they saw our lights, and so they came in, and they're really strong. So like 6 of us, we ended up getting the body out. And then you could hear them as we surfaced with the first bag, they got one. And we brought them over. And when we got out of the water, they had a complete decontamination setup ready for us. So you would go over and you'd stand like this, and they had a pressure washer, and they would pressure wash us, and then you'd turn around and they'd pressure wash the back side of you. And then you moved over to, they had a 55-gallon drum. I think I have some pictures of this somewhere. And they had like this push broom, and then they'd scrub you down with this disinfectant stuff, and then you'd go back to the pressure washer, and then you could take your gear off and get out. And apparently it got back to the mayor, who wasn't going to let me come, and then said I had 8 days. So he shows up, and he wants to talk to Mike and I. And he looked at me and he said, we had the best divers in the world here, and they couldn't do it. What did you do different? I said, I don't know. I wasn't here for their dives. So I said, I just know what I do, and I'm actually pretty good at what I do. And I said, I generally was taught by my father, you don't quit, you don't go home till the job's done. I said, so that's what I did. Oh boy, we're gonna have a hero's party for you tomorrow after you get the second person out. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. One, we don't even know where the second person is. Nobody's found him yet. And I said, two, this is not a heroic event. I said, I've gotten heroes awards and plaques. I said, when I bring somebody out alive, I said, I'll take that. I said, this is just a job. I said, this is an ugly job, but that family needs closure. So we went back to the hotel, got some sleep, got some food, and came back the next morning, went back in, and now I have to find the second victim. So I have to go, I was talking to Philip about what does the cave do? Where does it go? Because I can't see, it's zero visibility back there. So now I have to go back, find, he said, did you see my reel? I said, I didn't see anything. He said, well, right by where the victim's feet would have been, my reel's tied off. So I got back there, unscrewed it, unlocked it, and now I've got to basically explore a cave in zero visibility with a reel in one hand and explore and look for a body with the other hand. And then, of course, Mike's on my leg. So I'm going along, and it's not very big. It's like this tall. So I'm just fanning as far as I can reach, and I got this reel running along this wall, and then I'm reaching this way as far as I can. And then all of a sudden I ran into a wall. I'm like, oh shit, is that it? And then I could feel there was more space over here, so I had to find something to tie off to, so we don't line trap the line. And for those of you who don't know what that is, when I go this way and turn that way, the line's just gonna follow that way. And it might not be big enough for me to get out there, and I gotta follow that line. So I have to tie it off there and then go that way. So now I'm looking for something to tie off to that's gonna be solid and secure. I get it, I start going that way, and I'm feeling the same scenario. And all of a sudden, I don't know, I can't see. I don't think I went more than 20 feet, 15, 20 feet, if that. And all of a sudden I hit another wall. And I'm like, uh-oh, shit, I think I'm running out of cave here. And I'm feeling, and then I can feel there's an edge there. I'm like, okay, I guess we're going down. So I start going down, and I'm still running this reel, and I'm going down, 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 and I'm feeling the walls, and there's getting more sediment on the walls. The walls are getting really slimy. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling down, and I go, oh, that rock's really slimy. And then I went, oh, that rock has hair. And then I yelled to Mike, I got him. So now I need to tie off the reel somewhere. And I'm feeling around, and I can't find anything to tie off to. So now I have to start backing up until I can find something to tie off to close by. When I get tied off, I'm probably 8 feet, 7 feet from the 6 feet from the body. And now I've got to go out there with no line, and I find him, and I start working on getting him cut out of his gear. And no, go way down. So I get him cut out of his gear, and this time they had cut all of his gear. They'd cut his BC off of him. And I thought, we had such a tough time getting weight in him, I thought he had like a jacket style BC. And how he got in there, it's like this tall, with a tank on his back, I have no idea. I would have liked to dive with this guy, because he must have been really good at small places. But I thought, let's leave the BC on him, because BCs have pockets, and I can stick the weights in the pockets. And because getting a weight belt on him was very difficult. So I have to find back there, and first I took the reg set off, then I just dropped it, and you could hear it go down and cling, cling, cling off the rocks as it's heading down. Then I take my Z-knife out, and I cut the straps holding his tank on. Not even thinking that tank, what are aluminum tanks when they're empty? Positively buoyant.
Well, you're going to have to go down and get it.
Yeah, but then he's going to come back. So anyway, so sorry, my dog's being a pain in the butt. So go way down. So I cut the tank away, and it comes up and hits me right in the face. And I throw it off to the side, and I figure, okay, he's good. And I start pulling him up, and I get him 6 or 8 inches up, and I back up a little bit, and I can't get him up any further. And I'm like, what is going on? So now I'm feeling around trying to figure out what's stuck on this body. And apparently the cave went down like this, and then it opened up a little bit. And he also had a stage in front of him. And so as we came to this narrowing part, the stage is hung up there. And he's wedged. And so I'm feeling around, and I feel the stage bottle, and I can't unclip it because the bolt snaps are pulled so tight. So I reach back, grab my Z-knife out, and I cut the bolt snap off, and the tank swings down. Okay, that told me immediately that tank was probably full. And then I'm reaching down trying to find the lower clip to free him of it, and I'm feeling around, and I come to this whole rat's nest of line. And that was all the line they tore out along the way. It must have got caught in his stage bottle, and it's all accumulated right here. So I'm trying to get all this shit out of there, and as I do it, the line pulls taut, and it's caught around something. And so I pull my Z-knife out, and I go to cut it, and I'm like, wait, I don't know where my line's at. And then I yell back to Mike. I said, have you got the line? And he squeezes my leg, and he says, I have the line. And I cut that line, and I'm just waiting for him to scream at me, what did you do? Because that would have killed us both. And he didn't. And I yelled again, have you got the line? He said, I have the line. So now we're back moving again. I got him up. I got him back where the other victim had been. And now we start in that downhill. Same problem. I can't get him down. And he had some weight in his BC. I don't know how much. But we had to go back out to the weight bucket, come back in. Now this time I can't get the weight belt on him because he's got this jacket BC on. And it's got weights. So he's too big around for the weight belt. So now I'm on this angle, I'm on this incline, laying at about a 20 degree, 30 degree angle. I don't know, I can't see. I just know it's an angle. And I have to take this weight, I have to take the weights off the weight belt to put them in the harness. So I pull a weight off, and now I have to find some place to put the weight that's not on an angle and is going to slide away and get lost. So I find one rock, and I set it there. Now I'm doing this in the dark, and I pulled another weight off. Now I have to take that weight and stack it on this weight. So it's like playing Jenga in the dark with a dead body in front of you. So I get all the weights off the weight belt. Now I have to pick one weight off the pile without knocking it over, and then find the pocket that it goes in. And so putting a couple of weights in a BC seems like a pretty easy job, but it's really not. So I get this done. We get him loaded down with another 24 pounds of weight. Same problem. He's still positive buoyant. So anyway, I keep working and working and working. And by this time, I'm starting to really... Oh, and for those of you who don't know rebreathers, a rebreather is something that mixes gas. Number one rule of diving, always know your PO2. Know what you're breathing. So you have to have the monitor to tell you if you're breathable, if your gas is breathable or not. I'm in zero viz. So every 7-8 minutes, I would sit there and I'd bang my computer on my mask, swirling it around, trying to get an 1/8 inch of visibility so I could see these bright LED numbers. And all of a sudden I'd go, oh yeah, 0.98, we're still good. And I'd go back to work. So we're hours and hours and hours of hard physical labor into this dive. And I am starting to overbreathe my regulator. I'm starting to produce more CO2 than my rebreather can scrub out. And I just stop. I'm holding the body and I'm not moving. And I'm just trying to get myself relaxed and calm down and get my breathing under control. Now Mike sees that I go limp and he's worried about me and he's shaking my leg. Are you okay? And I just said, all stop. I'll stop. He stops for about a minute, and then all of a sudden he's shaking my leg again. Are you okay? And I yelled at him, I'll stop. He's like, okay, I'll stop. And while we're doing this, I didn't find this next morsel out till later. I think I've said numerous times, what was the visibility? 0. We are in 0 visibility. Mike's back there, doesn't want to get yelled at by Ed again. So I'm not going to ask him again if he's okay. I'm just going to chill. So he's bored. And sometimes in a 0 vis situation, if you put your head up against the ceiling, the particulate doesn't make it all the way. You might get an inch or 2 or 5 inches of visibility. So he's doing this to see what he can see. Out of boredom, I think. And he said, he looked down and all of a sudden there was a tunnel of crystal clear visibility. And he could see a golden ring. And he picked it up. It was the first victim's wedding ring. Now, if that's not divine intervention, I don't know what is. Because there was no clear visibility in there, I can tell you that right now. But he stuck it in his pocket. And a couple seconds later, why did I get CO2'd out right there? I don't know either. But anyway, so we go, get back to work. I don't know he found this thing. I'm rested, I'm good, and we go, and I get him down to there. We get the body bag. We get him heavily weighted. We get him out, and we get to the shore. The Navy divers help us get the victim out. The general's congratulating us. We go up, we get in our disinfectant line, we get all washed up, we get out of our gear. And then he tells me that story. And I'm like, yeah, that didn't happen. And he's like, I have it right here. And the first victim's son happened to be there. And he came up to thank me for getting his father out because they had been telling him they might leave him in there. So he came up to thank me for getting his father out. And Mike gave him this, I believe this is your father's. So anyway, that's pretty much that story.
Did you get to go cave diving the rest of it? Sounded like you did it in 2 days.
We did it in 2 days. And my friend Jeff Laughlin, he teaches a lot over there in the Dominican Republic, and he's been telling me for years, oh, Ed, the caves are awesome. Philip Lehman's over there all the time. He knows every cave there, and he's like, Ed, this is great caves. And so I told Mike, I said, man, let's figure out where we're diving tomorrow. And he goes, I want out of here. And I said, well, our plane tickets aren't for 6 more days, so we're doing some cave diving. He goes, oh, I called already. I changed them. We're leaving 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So next morning, we packed up our stuff, got a ride to the airport, and we were sitting waiting for our flight to board when the mayor called me and said, hey, we're going to have this party. I said, well, you're going to have it without me because I said, we're on a plane to head home. So I still have 2 cave dives in the Dominican Republic, and this is how much I've seen. So the first 700 feet was very nice, though.
The storm is ending our interview.
Yes, it was a beautiful sunny day, and now it's not. So, hi, I'm Edd Sorenson with Cave Adventures. So we already told the story. Now we're going to get a little bit of the backstory. So on the victims, I didn't know who they were. From what I heard, they were well known in the industry for traveling around to well-known and difficult to dive caves, even though they were not cave certified. From what I was told, an instructor once told them, you obviously love this sport, you love cave diving, why not get the training to go along with it? And one of them said, there's nothing you could teach me that I don't already know. So that's a recipe for disaster. This really, really is a very, very, very safe sport. The problem is it's very, very unforgiving. And all these rules that we live by as cave divers and cave instructors and cave instructor trainers, they're there for a reason. And a lot of people had to die to get those rules and guidelines so that we can have a safe sport. And cockiness and arrogance there's just no place in this sport for that. So it was a recipe for disaster already. They were open water divers. They didn't have redundant everything like they should have. They were doing a sport that they weren't certified for. But regardless, they went in, they perished. But still, the family needs closure. So I went, and when it was over, the son of the first victim wanted to talk to me. And so he called me up, and we were quite busy that day. He got his ring back from his father and said a quick thank you and was ushered off by the military. But later on, I'd given him my card, and he gave me a call and wanted to talk. And he was very, very nice. And he was very thankful that I brought his father back to him so they could have closure. And he said, I want to pay you for what you did. And I said, I appreciate that, but I don't accept money. He said, I do this as a volunteer. I said, but thanks for offering. And he said, you had a lot of expenses and to do this, fly all the way over here, and I want to, can I at least pay for your airline ticket? And I said, you're under no obligation to do that. I appreciate the offer. And he said, yes, I am. I have to do this. And I said, why is that? And he said, that's the way I was brought up. That's what my father would have wanted. So I said, all right, well, under one condition, I'll have Stacy send you over a copy of the ticket and our bank routing information. I said, but you have to promise that it's the amount on the ticket and not 1 cent more. And he said, okay. So he was a very nice young man, and he was very thankful that his father got to come back, and they got to have closure.
Hey everyone! Thanks for watching our latest episode all the way to the end. Hit that subscribe button now so you won't miss our next episode.